Hello and welcome to the What a Guy Wants podcast. We are your hosts, Coach Ali and Coach Yogesh. And in this podcast, we talk about all things men. So, for today, the topic is men and their need for perfection. Ali, have you ever experienced that? Having a
Oh,
need for
so
perfection?
so Yogesh, yeah, dude, so many times, right? It's one of those things where, as a man, right, like you go to a new setting, your new place, and it's more like you're not automatically like judging yourself against all the men over there. Like, how do I fit into this? And more than that, how accomplished am I looking in this moment? How worthy am I looking into this moment?
Yeah.
And how perfect I'm looking in this moment. So I would say it's more than many times. And I would say that like a few years back, I was in investment banking as well. And I would almost like very easily, although I wouldn't like it, but I would really easily hide behind my title and the place I was working for and the institutions I were working for. Because when I spoke about those institutions and those places, what would that mean? That came up with like, I've got a certain amount of power, I'm accomplished in a certain way, and that's
Yeah.
how I would come across to the world. So
Yeah.
again, yes, I would say like, yeah, numerous times.
Yeah.
And again, but this is how it makes sense to me. I'm just wondering, Yogesh, how does this make sense to you where perfectionism is in men is concerned?
Yeah, for me, it's always been like not feeling good enough, feeling the need, incessant, obsessive need to win, which also has the perfectionism inherent in it, not being able to take a loss very easily. So, a loss in a match, setback means a whole sense of self being absolutely destroyed. So, I am no one if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I am nobody if this girl doesn't love me back. So it actually goes up in different ways for me in my own life. The perfectionism, where failure, rejection, all of it almost meant death of that identification,
Yeah.
and means absolute obliteration of my own self worth.
Yeah. So true, Yogesh. I've got a friend of mine, and every time, he's an avid golf player. He's
Yeah.
into many sports, like, and every time he loses a match, it's one of those
Yeah.
days where like he doesn't want to hang out because that's the day where he wants to sit and, lick his wounds and go
Yeah.
through his own process of numbing, like, whatever, has to watch Netflix and stuff, but stay away from this world. And like, it's
Yeah.
almost like he has to heal because what happens is that as men, we want to win. Of course, the winning is great, but it's
Yeah.
also about, it's so odd, right? I tell my kids, right, that sports is so important because it makes you win, but it also teaches you how to lose. But it's so
Yeah.
funny that so many of us men, having played sports for years, for our entire lives, still have not learned how to lose because we make it about our own identity. What does this mean for me? And I'm
Yeah.
looking at like, I'm looking at other men. So for me, it's more like I've always been for some reason, I've always been in non-competitive sports. So but again, when I'm looking at competitive sports, I can see like it's almost like a hit on the ego.
Yeah, not just in sports. If you can see in the movie industries in Bollywood, Hollywood, how competitive they are and how strong it is for them to maintain almost an illusion of perfection. So then there's definitely, at least now we've seen change happening, but generally there is a I want to be seen as perfect. And that's what they do on screens, right? They have perfect abs, the perfect physique, and for that they pump in testosterone, growth hormones, whatever steroids, whatever be it. It's in all competition, like gyms, movie actors, sportsmen, anywhere where competition is there, men are involved, perfectionism is rave. Ali, I wanted to ask you, where is this coming from? What's the root and source of this perfectionism?
That's a very interesting question, Yogesh. And I would say for many men, right, it starts as boys. You get a 15 on 20 on a math test, and the
Yeah.
question that you get asked is where did the 5 marks go? You never
Yeah.
applauded for the 15. It's about where did the 5 marks go? So this is a thought that came up for me. Is like my son was in a swimming competition a few months ago, and I was there,
Yeah.
and there were parents, and I saw the parents, and I was just observing. They're like, I
Yeah.
don't care whatever happens. I
Yeah.
want you to come first. I don't give a shit whatever happens. You have to come first. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all that I care about. I don't care about your friends. I don't care about anyone else. I just care about you coming first. And now the thing is that you got this child who's got, okay, I got a 15 on 20, and where did the 5 marks go? Okay, I didn't win the swimming test. Swimming, I didn't come first.
Competition.
But even for the person who's come first, right, it's more like I have to come first again and again and again. Because if I come second, or if I come third, or if I don't win, then I will not be worthy. So in order, constantly, what are we chasing, really chasing? We're
Yeah.
chasing love, we're chasing connection. What do we make it mean as children? It's more like, okay, I will not be loved until I don't get the results. I will not feel connected until I don't feel the results. So what happens is that initially it's an adult voice speaking to us. Eventually this becomes our own voice. So very much so, I would say that this is coming from the root cause of it is our own childhood, and that's where it's coming from. And you know how it grows into adults, right? What as adults we want to see men of money, we want to see men of position, men of authority,
Yep.
men of expensive toys, so we've got all these things, and then when we see somebody else who it's a little more, and it tells us, oh, you know what, you need to work harder and harder and harder and look perfect. You have to show the world that you're perfect, because anything less than would actually mean that you're less than. And in doing so, we all lose out as men, and we all lose out as a society as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Thank you for sharing this. For the longest time in my 20s, I thought I'm the only one who's plagued by this and no one else would understand me. No one else has this. But the way you framed it, it's absolutely almost logical, where for me, I have a different frame to it. It is, I will be loved when I'm perfect. So when I get 100 on 100, when I come first, then dad will give me love, mom will give me validation, and so forth. So this thing, firstly, I thought I was alone in this, and it really screws up with our whole psyche and how we perceive ourselves, because as human beings it's very difficult to keep winning all the time. Honestly, the other thing that comes up for me, if I'm winning all the time, if I'm absolutely perfect, in perfectionism breeds narcissism. It means that when I think of this, yeah, it just came to me. Play with it. If I'm always trying to be perfect, that means I'm always thinking, what do I have to do? Is my jacket okay? Do I look okay? All of those things. So I'm absolutely in my own head. And for me, it's only me. I'm only looking at myself. So when you gave the example of the dad who's telling his little kid, I don't care about anything else. I don't care about your friends, the rules, the swimming teacher. I don't care what you do, get to the goal. So it becomes like only about me and only about winning, or only about one thing, that you forget everything else is expendable. Everything else doesn't matter. So for me, that is the definition of narcissistic behavior. Is like, what I want to do, I'll do. It doesn't matter how my behavior hurts the other person, impacts the other person. I have no social awareness of it. So in sports, you need to be very, very clear focused, eye on the prize and go towards it. That is good. That is a good practice to have. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being so self absorbed in that thing that this is the only thing which will give me love, which will give me worth, it will give me validation, and will give me existence. That is the only thing I'm going to do at any cost. And that becomes very, very selfish to the extent of narcissism. And I feel that is imperfection, and in the lure of going towards perfection, a lot of us can get in the fall in the trap of narcissism. What do you think? What's coming up for you?
So, as I hear your words, right, it's what came up for me strongly is when we're looking for perfectionism and we're looking
Yeah.
for that goal, right? Once we achieve that goal, because the goal is that only when I achieve that will I be loved.
Yeah.
But once we achieve that, it becomes the next thing. Only when I achieve that will I be loved. So what we're doing is that we're constantly chasing after love our entire lives. We're
Yeah.
chasing after, okay, after I do this, I have to do this, I do this. Many I don't remember the stats right now, but many CEOs, right, and many managers, they never actually sit and applaud themselves for the achievement. They don't actually applaud their teams for their achievement. And
Yes.
again, feeding into, I know I'm changing subjects here as well, is that even in the workplace, right, imposter syndrome is such a big thing. It's more like, okay,
Yes.
I need to look cool. I need to look perfect. I need to look as though I'm all sorted. But inside, I hope that they don't find out, because the day they find out, my job will be over. They'll be able to see through me. And
Yeah.
we play the same things in our friends as well, right? Our closest friends. We speak about politics, we speak about sports, we speak about hobbies, and but yet we don't know if our friend is actually suffering, even though that person might be our best buddy. We don't
Yeah.
know because that's a part of us we can't share. Maybe it becomes it's we've been taught that to show weakness is wrong. We've been
Yeah.
taught maybe it becomes a question of our masculinity. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, but there's so many things that come into play that with our friends as well, we don't know what's happening. So
Yeah. I
it's
think
just
it's
interesting.
connected, to be honest.
Yeah,
So what you're basically saying is how I'm understanding it is even if someone inherently is not running towards perfection, sometimes they are also sold by the concept of perfection. So he's now in the illusion of perfection. So in the office, in his social group, he has to look perfect. So even if you're not really even if you're sold by this concept of perfection, you're still running by the same rules itself. Like, I want to look perfect
yeah,
and this is the image I have to set out for me. And
yeah.
that is basically can be very destructive.
Absolutely. It can be extremely destructive. And I'll tell you, so like 4 years ago, right? I was in my own state of depression because I didn't know where my life was headed. I didn't know what I wanted from my life. I didn't know
Yeah.
many aspects of my life, and I was really dissatisfied with my own life, and I was seeking help. And what I did was that I cut away from two of my really close friends, and I kept my distance. And later on, once I sorted my stuff out, I mentioned, oh, this is why I was suffering, and both of them just mentioned, why didn't you ever tell us? And I'm just
Yeah.
like thinking, I'm like, why didn't I ever tell them? Because would they see me as weak? Would they see me as less masculine? But the funny thing is, it's not about them. It's about me seeing myself as that.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing, Yogesh, is that once I went on this journey, is that when, before leaving my company, the last company I worked for, I spoke to my manager and I'm like, I've been here for 4 years and every single day, this imposter syndrome is extremely real. And what an awesome dude. He's like, okay, let's get the team together and talk about it. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yes. And in our team, there were 6 men and like four other men, and I think two other women. And we sat there, and I'm just like, okay, guys, you know what? I'm just gonna put my hands up. 4 years, I've been feeling this way every single day I come in, and I feel exactly the same way. That one day I'm gonna get found out and this and that. And boom, what happened was that within 40 minutes, all the men over there were sharing what was going on with them. The women were sharing,
Wow.
and the power of that group changed. We exactly knew what each person is like. Okay, now how can we support each other? So it's one of those things where when I'm busy looking perfect, then the
Yeah.
energy which I'm giving out to the world is of perfection. That means that
Yeah.
I force somewhere down there, consciously or subconsciously, I force the other person to look perfect as well, because I'm competing with that person, and then the
Yes.
other person has to look perfect, and then we all have to look perfect. And when we all
Yeah.
look perfect, we all lose. We all lose, and we all lose from that love and connection. And that's what we all gear towards, right? What do we want as children? We want love and connection. And but at the same time, when we shatter that perfection, right? And we just there, even if we shatter it a little bit, and we're
Yeah.
just there, and we give ourselves the perfect self the permission to speak, then we're giving everyone else the permission as well. And it just brings so much of beauty in the entire conversation, because it makes us human, and to be human is to be imperfect. And that's how I see it.
Beautiful. Yeah. There's actually a book on the gifts of imperfection by Brené Brown, and she talks a lot about this need to be perfect. And actually, what I was talking about, you just said it so much better. How destructive this illusion of perfectionism can be. It's because it's completely external focused, right? I'm just trying to show myself off as perfect. That means the other person, A, is now sensing the energy that he can't be vulnerable because this person is showing themselves as perfect. So if I be vulnerable, then maybe I'm going to be shamed as not being perfect, not being good enough. So then they put on the mask of, see, I'm perfect as well. And then the other one puts on the mask, and then the other one puts on the mask. And truly, the thing is, doing that every now and then can be okay. Sometimes people are on guard, you also on guard, and you don't overshare. That's okay. Some situations don't require, not all situations require us to be vulnerable all the time. However, once that becomes your way you operate, then that is the biggest challenge, because that means that there is no introspection happening. At all times, I'm putting on a persona, putting on that mask, and people have actually lived their lives doing that. And that is the destructive part, because we're living in such a big illusion and we don't know that it basically really eats into our health. That because I've created that big bubble and I've created it so much, I've invested so much in it. Now shattering it means shattering all 15 years of knowing Yogesh. Oh my God, now I can't change. Otherwise, people will not trust me at all. Even more, they won't trust me. So, yeah, that really eats up into our health, our psyche. And without introspection, without connection, we can't be successful on our mission. So that is the biggest thing that comes up for me.
Beautiful, Yogesh. And again, it's something the 25-year-old man would be thinking that, damn, I built this persona up, but now I have to continue with it because I've been living it for the last 7, 10 years, whatever. The 30-year-old man would be thinking, I wish I was 25. The 40-year-old man would think that I wish I was 25. And the 60-year-old man would be thinking that I wish I was 25. And yes, only when I was 25, and the 25 is thinking 18 or 15, whatever, that will I be able to do it. But the thing is that to be okay with one's imperfection and looking imperfect, right? It's never too late. It's about just being human. And what you said is beautiful is that, when we're just overly sharing everything, that's not vulnerability. That's something else. That's not, that's dumping. That's the need for attention. Vulnerability is more like, okay, you know what? I have a problem here. I need help with it. Or this is where I am. I wonder if anybody else is struggling with it too. So it's a very different mindset, right? The victim mindset is not, it wants to say it all at one go, but that's not vulnerability. That's not powerful sharing. That could be a desperate attempt to gain attention and seek validation. So those are different things. But again, I feel that as we're talking, Yogesh, that it's so important to have groups of men just talking, right? Sitting there and having conversations about, when things aren't perfect, what happens with them? What are the issues? What is the shit they deal with? And let's aim for, instead of creating a perfect world, let's aim for excellence. And again, we also need to create those, like for the younger generation, right? There has to be role models. The role models who say that, as men, that I love you unconditionally. Nothing that you will do will ever make me judge you. And yet at the same time, I am going to keep you 100% accountable, and I am going to keep you in place because I want you to achieve what you want. And so again, in all this stuff, you have the love, you have the connection, you've got firmness, you've got accountability, you've got so much more coming in. And again, it's more about when boys and when younger men can speak, and when older men can speak to younger men that way and break that mask of perfection, right? What's there is more like, I have a problem, please help me. And helping is more of it comes from within us, right? Is that genuinely, even when we don't help people, there's a part of us that wants to help. That's how we are wired as human beings. So yeah, that's what's coming up for me right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Honestly, what I took from that is having the courage to love and to firstly accept ourselves when we are not imperfect. So once we are doing the work and we are having failures, in my improv practice and in a lot of improv, they say celebrate your failures. So we actually applaud and we actually pat each other on the back when we fail. So it's actually to get out of the funk of perfectionism. And what you just said summarize it so well. Ali, what would be your final words? Like, how can we take the first step towards getting out of perfectionism?
So first step would be asking deeper questions where our friends group are concerned, and sharing a little bit, and just sharing it a little bit without the expectation that they will share in return. Because sometimes it's more like, okay, I've shared a little bit, now I want you to share, but that doesn't happen. That happens by building trust, and that comes with time because we're going a level deeper. So I would almost say, like, have the courage to go a level deeper. And as I'm saying, I'm so glad you asked this question because that is something that I haven't been doing in my friends group either. Yogesh, it's one of the things that as friends, we've been doing it with each other where we've been challenging ourselves, offline. But at the same time, with my friends group, I've not ever thought, okay, what are the problems here? What are the issues here? How can we help each other out? I've been thinking about it, but maybe I need to go a bit deeper and maybe and it doesn't have to be complete vulnerability. It can be a small share, but it's about creating that awareness and creating that place. So in short, it's more like giving ourselves the permission and having the courage to go a bit deeper with our friends. So
Yeah.
that's my final key thought.
And conversations like these help. Having this conversation, like it helped you right now, to be like, you know what? I can incorporate it in my
Yeah,
friends
absolutely.
group a little bit today. So
Yeah.
those are the things we are trying to look at in podcasts like these. What do you think? Do you think you have gotten value from today's session about perfectionism? Have you seen perfectionism in men, in yourselves, in your surroundings, in your life? If you have, please share with us. We'd love to hear your feedback. We really, really value your thoughts on this.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. This here is not your obligatory like, share, and subscribe video. The whole purpose behind what a guy wants and my work as a men's coach is making you a better man. So if this video helps you become a slightly better version of yourself, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, we'd like to hear from you. So if you like this video, if you resonate with something, please leave a comment. If you did not like something, even then leave a comment. We are cool that way. No problem. See you next week.